criminal justice, healing, education. Time to awaken the community. Good morning, afternoon, evening, however or whenever you are listening and or watching. You guys should know me by now, but if you guys don't know me by now, my name is Holly Sisa. I am the lovely host of this program we call Morning Mimosas, where we value human life, justice, healing, and education for the Black and minority communities. Guys, before we get this episode started, I wanted to share a video with my Black men today. You guys know I love my Black men. I love my community. I just wanted to share this brief message with you guys before we got this episode started today. So here is the message for my Black men.
Hey, Black man, hear me when I say this with the certainty of sunrise. You are carved from the breath of God and the brilliance of galaxies. Your spirit is not an accident. It is an architecture, divine design, wrapped in melanin and might. I speak life over you today, not in a whisper, but in a voice born from generations who prayed you forward. You carry their strength, you carry their rhythm, you carry their fire, and I honor every flame inside of you. Black man, this world tests you, tries you, underestimates you, but still you rise like smoke from holy incense, refusing to disappear. Your resilience is revelation, your presence is prophecy, your walk is testimony wrapped in grace. I admire the warrior in you, not just the one who fights battles, but the one who chooses peace when chaos begs for your attention. The one who protects without asking, loves without limit, and guards his purpose like sacred ground. But let me affirm this to you. You deserve rest from the world's demands. You are worthy of softness, warmth, and unquestioned safety.
So I hope that resonated with my Black men this morning because this episode is going to be talking about being a safe space for all men. But you guys know how we do here. We're specifically talking about the Black and minority men today. So today we have two amazing men that are going to be coming on here to speak on being a safe space for Black mental health. And I will be the safe space because I'm going to let them do the talking. And I'm just going to sit here and only ask questions so us women can learn to be a safe space. But before we do that, let's welcome them to Morning Mimosas the proper way. So. Fellas, thank you so much for being on Morning Mimosas this morning and or afternoon or, wherever y'all are in the country. Guys, please, please, please introduce yourselves.
John, you got it.
Yes, I'm good. All right. My name is John Watson. I am one third of the Sports for You podcast, 1/4 of the Sports for You Wrestling podcast. You can catch us every Tuesdays and Fridays on YouTube, every Wednesdays on YouTube, every Mondays and Wednesdays on YouTube as well. And you can follow me on social media at John Watson 0984 on X, Instagram, and TikTok.
Appreciate it, John. My name is Kevin Coates. I'm a certified self-awareness coach. I've worked in mental health for over 15 years with severe mental illness like schizophrenia, major depression, anxiety, bipolar. I also am a mental health keynote speaker. I've spoken at corporate events. I do a lot of high schools and college visits as well, slash entrepreneurship. You can follow me on Instagram at NQOY20, which is Nikoi, my clothing line, NQOY20.
Thank you, fellas. So I just wanted to say, I apologize that one of our guests is not here. She is not feeling well, so I just wanted to give her that shout out. Dominique, please feel better today. So I'm going to start off with our opening question, which is, what does mental health mean to both of you guys personally?
With mental health to me, it means that it's about obviously the safety of your brain, what you go through day in and day out, from your when you wake up, from the time you wake up, from the time you go to bed, when you what you do throughout a 24-hour cycle, how you maintain sanity throughout the day ends and life's challenges.
Okay. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, for me, the definition has changed over my personal growth. As a youth, I never used the terms, mental health together at all. But having worked in it and worked on myself over the years, I would say my definition would be an understanding of how you operate in terms of your thoughts at a conscious and subconscious level, your level of awareness around that, and how the external and environmental factors play a part in that. And it can be as small and detailed as how do you feel when you wake up in the morning, or what thoughts did you fire when you first woke up. Um, and I know it's kind of a loaded response, but it's hard to just keep it down to one thing. It's such a variety and multifaceted. But yeah, it's the awareness of your conscious and subconscious mind and how that impacts your overall health, mind body connection as well.
Thank you guys for your answers to that. So, when did you guys first openly hear men talk about mental health?
Oof.
With me, it was 2010, and it was Ron Artest, the Laker, now known as Meta World Peace. He opened up about his mental health and how he was going to therapy. And I was like, I've heard people go to therapy before, so I thought it was nothing new. But he auctioned off his championship ring to raise awareness on mental health. And then that was like, okay, now this is something different I haven't heard about. And then that's when I've learned more about, obviously, the suicide rates going up in our country, and every other tragedy is lies with, specifically with Black men. I mean, we've dealt with Black women, we've all races have done with it, but specifically with Black men, I did not know how bad the mental health spectrum was affecting us.
Yeah, and for me, Holly, it was, I would say, I mean, at a larger scale, very similar to John, the last 10, 15 years, I think we've caught on to this wave of trying to create spaces for men, especially Black men, to express. For me, I really learned at a young age, looking through the experiences of my father, and the things that he was reluctant to share, but more so how he behaved. And that's kind of how I got into this space. I really started to learn about people from how they behave, and especially our people in the Black community. Um, as far as the shootouts, things that I've seen and experienced, and just seeing how we behave before we could actually express vocally our emotions and our use of substance, things like that. And so for me, I was very curious at a young age, like there's something going on mentally within my family, my friends, because they didn't always have the vocabulary to express the sadness. If anything, they showed it behaviorally before they actually were able to put words to it. So I was pretty young when I saw it then. But at a big stage, yeah, within the last 10, 15 years, I would say it's caught a pretty big wave.
Thank you guys for that. So, the next section, we're going to talk about society and its expectations. So, that's what the questions are going to be stemmed towards. So, how do expectations of masculinity affect how men handle emotions?
It's pressure. It's a lot of pressure we go through as fathers, as husbands, as sons, brothers, as positive male role models. We deal with There's pressure that we deal with because we know how society feels about us in general, and we go through a lot, you know, day in and day out, and the pressure sometimes it gets heavy, and we crumble, and but but once we crumble, we didn't know we still have that chance to bounce back. It don't have to be immediately, But sometimes we have to realize what's safe for our mental, take a step back, and then eventually go back to the table and do what we're gonna do. But yeah, it's a lot of challenges we deal with that cause us, to crumble under
Yeah.
pressure a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree with what John is saying. I felt that pressure. It's the old adage of, you're not a man unless you're providing. And there's a lot of conversation around this now. What it does is it boxes us in into identifying one way, as that provider. And the subcategories of what we provide is typically just monetary, benefits to our family. Um, I had a conversation with a young lady just last night. She told me, she said, my dad, he had to do therapy this week. He was physically there, but he wasn't always emotionally present. And I think that's what's really hurting a lot of it hurt a lot of us, I'm included in that, is whether they're around physically but not having that emotional availability. And it's not their fault, because as we go back in generations, it just there was no space effort for that. And she said something to me that's pretty profound. She said, my father took each one of us kids out for lunch, and he had a list, and he asked us, he said, hey, what have I done right by you, in your life? What are the good things about me? And tell me how you feel about me. And he initiated that. And they gave all the good things. And, we like to spare people's feelings from shame and blame and things like that. And then he said, I love all the good things, but tell me all the things that I didn't do so well. How have I hurt you? Where did I not show up, in your life? And he was open and receptive to hearing how he may have been trying his best, but, he fell short in some ways. And emotional availability, I think, is that's missing as men towards our young boys, and especially towards our young girls, to help them feel understood, heard, valued, to create a sense of safety and trust. And I think that's new. I still think there could be more conversation around emotional availability, which bleeds into emotional intelligence as well. But I mean, the Black community, I mean, that's some effort, because typically we're trying to figure out how to keep the lights on, how to keep food in the house, how to keep clothes on the kids' back. So tapping into emotional availability is a whole different ballgame.
Thank you guys for that. And absolutely, I agree with both of you guys. Now, my next question is, what messages about being a man did you grow up with? I know you tapped into that a little bit, Kevin, but I want you guys to go a little bit deeper into that.
You
Well, my father wasn't around from the time I was 2 to the time I was 20 or 19 to be exact. My dad dealt with substance abuse, dealt with substance abuse addiction. God rest his soul, he would tell you, my name is Tony Watson and I'm a stone cold crackhead. So even before I was born, my mom dealt with it because she never picked up drugs, but she knew he was an addict. But when I was 2, made the decision to leave him. And when she left him, he was still going through his addiction. And like I said, from the time I was 2 to the time I was almost 20, he wasn't around. So I had to lean on other males in my life for positive, as positive role model, a positive male role model, specifically my grandfather, from the time until he passed when I was about 9. And then other men my mother dated who accepted me. They didn't try to act like my daddy. They didn't try to be like my big brother, try to be my no. But they were positive male role models, and some of them have, unfortunately, they have passed. But then when my father got sober and he got in my life, the last 14 years of his, he gave me a lot of wisdom, and specifically when I became a father myself, when he was at his deathbed, he was telling me, just make sure you take care of Sophie. So a lot of the things I got growing up was watching my grandfather provide and be a husband to my grandmother, even though, and she had disability because she was blind, and was able to provide for my mom and my uncle, my aunt, and then help raise me and my cousins. And obviously seeing other men and my mom had around who were that carried themselves like men, took care, provided, worked, were not out here taking advantage of women and treated them like the way they were supposed to be treated. So those are some of the messages I got growing up, even though my father wasn't around. But then when my father got back around as an adult, it helped me through the last 14 years of his life to see what he went through and to give me wisdom on how I should handle certain challenges as life throws them at you.
Yeah. Yeah, John, I appreciate you sharing that, man. For me, my father, we never, as a youth, we never sat down and actually spoke about being a man. But what I would say I observed, he worked um, as hard as he could. He never opened up or shared much of his childhood and things he had went through. But I would say through my observation, what I had learned was you go out, you work, and you pay for what you can. And he struggled as well with substance throughout his life. I think I never had a conversation. I think about my conversations with other men growing up. There, it wasn't a thing. Um, so for me, I had to learn from other people's behaviors. I could tell you, I didn't learn healthy relationship skills. I didn't learn how to value women in relationships in a healthy way, as far as monogamy and things like that. That was not something that came naturally, or was like, hey, this is how you treat a woman, this is how you take care of your family. If anything, I was exposed and saw the opposite of how men was just doing whatever they were doing, how they wanted to. Um, but for me, I've had to grow into understanding myself and what I really want, not just today, but what I want in the future. And I think that's important for a lot of men to have that self reflection. Whether you want to be married, if you're not, whether you want to show up in your relationship for your family, but not just in a way of paying the bills, because we're all human and we all have these emotions. Men tend to go towards the aggressive aspect of it very innately and impulsively. And we have to put some awareness on that. Why is that a thing? Why do we jump to that when times get hard? But yeah, the whole not crying thing, I was never told that, but yeah, I witnessed it from friends and other men and young boys. You could see how they clench their fists and they're trying to do everything they can not to show that they're hurt. And I don't think that's fair, because when we suppress emotions, it comes out in other ways that are not healthy. And that's just for any of us. That's pretty universal.
Thank you guys for that. That actually brings me to my next segue, which the next section we'll be talking about emotional expression. So, why do you guys think that some emotions are harder for men to express?
Great question.
Kind of like what Kev was saying. We were taught as men, don't show your vulnerability, don't cry, don't be. You make, because some people might think you're soft, you're vulnerability. You don't want people seeing your vulnerability. They might think that's expressing your feminine side and all that other crap. Um, I cried. I've cried many times. I cried when my grandfather died. I cried when my grandmother died. I cried when my daddy died. I cried, obviously, when I found out my mother had breast cancer. That didn't make me any less of a man. I cried at the birth of my daughter was born because she made it through. I cried through some challenges I went through recently. How we've talked. You know what I've been through. Um, it's not. It doesn't make you any less of a man to show your vulnerable side. I learned that from my pastor, because my pastor, he don't take much for him to cry. Because he thinks about what he went through growing up in the South and the stuff he put his family, his parents through, his mother through, but he was able to be delivered, and obviously, and stuff he's done wrong in the past, but he's thankful that he had another chance to get things right. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with showing emotion. You and our children and our family need to see that we do have an emotion because others will be as cold as ice. We don't. It's nothing wrong with having a crying session every now and then. I remember I was watching Making the Band one time, and it was when the Danny Kane was coming together, and they had the legendary Betty Wright in there trying to teach them how to teaching them about vocals. And she told Danny Kane, "You cannot grow seeds, plants without water." So yeah, you want to be strong, and you don't want people to see the waterworks coming from your face, but you don't grow if you don't show a little emotion, or else you just be cold as ice.
Again, John, thank you for expressing that. The thing about expressing emotion is there's a lot of shame and fear that second secondary that comes with that, and whether we know that or not, we feel it. A lot of people would say, "I don't like crying in front of people," and if you ask why, there's going to be that adage of, "Well, it makes me look weak," or "I just don't like doing it. It makes me uncomfortable." And typically that stems from being raised in a household where you were not allowed to share those emotions. I personally have grown to understand and learn, even for myself, that crying is actually a strength because I'm now
Amen.
acknowledging that there's something that's not okay within me, and I naturally want to express sadness, which every human has in some variation. And I think that has to be the shift in understanding with crying for men is that when you can acknowledge your emotions and feelings or something that didn't go the way you wanted to, it's okay to cry. That's a strength. Um, and we're not going to be mad if you get happy if something goes right, right? So why can't you cry and be sad when something doesn't go right? That's just natural human tendencies, and but you get conditioned. You get conditioned, and you lose your man card, if you will. I don't believe in any of that. I cry. I listen to a lot of smooth jazz, so there's times where an instrument can play, it can hit a long tune, and I just feel tears come. A thought may come, a memory may come. I do a lot of crying out of gratitude. I'm a person that works at gratitude every week, every day. Anybody that knows me, that asks me how I'm doing, my response is I'm grateful. And I cry just from being grateful that I have things that I have, even though sometimes I may want a little bit more, sometimes it doesn't matter. Uh, but that fear of shame and guilt and blame and the judgment is what really stunts that expression, that path of expression is that feeling that, hey, if I do this, you'll see me less than, I'm going to be inferior to you and you'll be superior to me. And that I think we need more groups. We need more validation that it's okay. Crying is actually a strength. One of the things I never understood, especially with men who abuse women, in terms of this whole tough thing, is for you to be able to do that. That right there shows that you have a gap in your emotional understanding and trauma specifically that has manifested into a certain level of anger, which is an emotion. And so to suppress other emotions so you can bring others up, that creates an imbalance. So you're feeling angry more than sadness. I'm just gonna skip sadness and just go straight to, beast mode. That's kind of dangerous.
Mhm.
It's not strength at all. That's very dangerous. And if you're not aware that you can go from 0 to 100 where you can hurt someone. And that's why we see less numbers in diagnosis of depression in men, especially black men. But at a suicide level, we see a higher rate of suicide. And you're talking about, an aggressive form of suicide in terms of just taking the gun and doing what they do, not pills, things like that, right? So, yeah, it's a strength to cry. And I believe that. And um, I guess I don't think I've ever had a man card to lose. I've just been me, a man that's willing to grow and be vulnerable and explore this one life that I have.
Thank you guys for that. That actually brings me to my next question. How can we normalize men talking about feelings? Like, I really want to know this. Like, because women, oof. Go ahead, John, because I was about to go in on women for a second.
He's about to get in your
I'll just
feelings.
sit there and listen. Like, so, yeah, just just ask, like, like, I know you, so I know you always ask. Just asking how your day is going. Anything went wrong? Just and always having an ear, always just having an ear to the ground and to the heart to see if you feel, because y'all women have y'all intuition, y'all can sense when something is wrong. But just listen, and then just listen, because sometimes it's gonna be hard to pry out the info from a man because they don't want to, like Kev said, look soft and all that other stuff. Um, just listening, it helps. The same way we have to listen to y'all. It's a two-way street. So but it's more of a challenge for a man to be open up about if he had a bad day at work, or got into it with a friend, or had an altercation somewhere, or they just feeling down on life. It's like pulling teeth at a dentist. So I would say just listening, but still showing compassion by just saying, whenever you want to get it out, I'm right here. You might not be right now, it might be 5 minutes from later, but eventually just listening is number one. It helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. We like to be validated too. You know, we like to be applauded and appreciated, and not necessarily for the result and the outcome, but just the effort. Just the fact that we put the effort out there to try and do what was hard. Um, I believe maybe because this is a value of mine. I am a very curious person, so at times I would like to have that curiosity approached upon me. I'm a very vulnerable person, so I don't believe that I can be curious and not have that reciprocated. That's just me. I don't believe that I can ask for vulnerability from other people and not be willing to be vulnerable. But I am someone who practices. I've learned to practice healthy coping mechanisms and a lot of self reflection. Uh, but just that curiosity, and sometimes it might be you set a certain time, when you get home with your significant other, a certain time in the week to just do a check in. Relationship check-ins are a thing. Let's just see where we're at. And the definition of like connection, right, is to be able to listen and speak, with one another and create a level of understanding. But what gets in the way, pride and ego. I think a lot of when you've had a lot of trauma, especially as a man, whether you are aware of it or not, that ego kind of gets blended in, and you become reluctant, and you become that little boy again. I don't really want to share this, and energy is a thing as well. Sometimes we give off the energy that we don't want to be in that space, and that's something I think we can be better at, is opening up that space for you to come in and validate our feelings. We like a pat on the back, a little shoulder massage or anything. You don't even have to be words, but uh, it's not universal. I'll say that as well. Anything that we've been speaking of, I wouldn't say it applies to everyone. I won't say it's universal. It varies. It definitely varies. There's relatability in all of it, though.
Thank you guys for that. So I'm actually going to bring up a comment because one of my dear friends, Tyra Williams, I love you, girl. She has a question for you guys, and I want you guys to please answer this. Um, she's asking, how do we make you guys feel safer on speaking what actually makes you guys sad? We can listen, but if you guys don't feel safe to tell us, then listening doesn't
Yeah.
bring forth anything. Tyra,
Mm.
thank you for that question.
Hmm. It is a great question. I it just like showing like kind of stuff Kev was saying, just showing your compassion, and it kind of showing a check in here, keep checking in and showing the compassion. It makes things easy. It makes it easier for us to open up and talk about our situations. So just keep doing what you're doing, because eventually you will crack the Da Vinci Code, and we would
Mhm.
open up. So it's all about just being consistently showing how much you care, and
Mhm.
that brings forth a lot.
Yeah, that's a great question. And depending on what the man has been through and what he's been taught, for example, if he's never been able to talk to his mother, there's a good chance that it's going to be hard to open up to women. If he has a perception that women are unsafe in the emotional realm, then that's going to be hard as well. I would say just meeting it head on and expressing in a compassionate way that I notice there's something bothering you. Can we set up a time to talk and I'll listen? Um, Let me know when you set the day, time, and place, and so I think having that kind of schedule around it could create a moment where that man could open up. Because one thing that can be challenging is just getting caught off the cuff, like, hey, just in that moment. If he's not used to expressing in that moment, that little boy's gonna come in and curl up. He's gonna become avoidant. He's gonna shut down. You might even see some aggression, and you're looking like, why is he so aggressive? I just asked a simple question, and that's because sometimes the stage has to be set for that moment, especially if he's not practiced in expressing what makes him sad. And so, setting up a daytime and a place, and knowing that he's gonna be in that space for sharing what's making them sad. That may be something that could help someone who's not practiced in that area.
Tyra, once again, thank you so much for that question. I'm going to ask just a
So
couple more. Oh, did somebody have something to say? I'm sorry.
no, you're good. No, you're great.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the next section, which is called support and safe spaces. You guys already talked about this, so I'm not going to ask you guys a lot of these questions, but this one I feel like it's a pretty good one. What role does trust play in mental health conversations?
Mm,
Very important, because you
yeah.
got to have you need a confidant. There's some people you got to find a person or a support group where you can talk to, and the conversation stays right where the conversation is. You, my pastor always says this: not everyone you have coffee with is your friend, and you only get a certain amount of friends in life. But if God gives you one, thank God for it. You have you and you kind of know who you can confide in. In my circle, I probably have like really, as far as brothers, I probably have 8 like real close male friends and I'll see in a few, like 4, few. Holly's one of them on the female side. Um, it's those people who you can talk to, even in your darkest hours, where the conversation stays at the table and it doesn't leave the table. And then you could come back and revisit it, and you can get up and and the person wants to update and see how everything's going. Has there been any progress with you and everything? It still feels the same. But you can't do that with everybody, because some people, they get loose lips, and they don't know how to sometimes have self-awareness to know. Crazy how Kevin's a self-awareness coach. He would know to have the self-awareness to know that some things are not meant for the public eye. There's some things that have to stay private, because if you don't keep some things private, you're also hurting yourself, because you need to be able to know someone is there that just to listen to whatever good or bad is going on in your life.
Very, very true. Trust is in that bucket of safety. If there were terms in a bucket of safety, trust is with deep dark secrets, trauma. Um, if there's no trust, there's no expression or very little expression. And the reason why trust is so important is because I need to know that if whatever I'm going to tell you, one, as John said, it's going to be confidential in between us, but two, that you're not going to judge me, right? You're not going. My character doesn't get dictated, around what I've been through, what has happened to me. Um, you're not going to make me feel guilty later on. And I think that happens sometimes in relationships of all sorts. If I share this with you, are you going to come back in about a month when things go south and use that against me? Am I giving you the ammunition to the gun to shoot me with? And we have to be cautious in who we share with. I, I friends know me. I've gone on and say, look, if I've given you a piece of me and vulnerability, you can't hurt me with it because I've already owned it. I'm not letting you hurt me with my truth. So if I've told you something that I've done or that's happened to me, I have already committed to myself that you can't hurt me with it because I've forgiven myself. I've moved through that. Um, but yes, I would say the guilt that comes out of that, the judgment, and shame. Certain things bring a lot of shame, and with all of that, promotes to anxiety and overthinking and everything else. We can keep going, but trust is so important. And as a coach, when I've had whether it be teenagers or adults up in their 60s tell me what happened to them 50 years ago, that is such a rewarding experience to know that they trust me with that because they believe in their own heart that it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to come back like a boomerang and hit me in my head. It's not going to be that knife in my back. I can actually get this out. I've been wanting to get this out with somebody that I believe I can trust. And so trust is very essential. Um, as hard as it is to build it, it's so easy to break it. And I think that's hard too.
Guys, thank you guys so much for your perspectives today. Is there anything else that you guys want the Morning Mimosa viewers to take away today?
Don't be afraid to show your vulnerability.
Yeah.
It might, I know, like we explained, men, it makes us, men are not supposed to show that they have a side, emotional side to society and to life. But trust me, get if you don't get out your emotions, it's only gonna make you sicker on the inside.
Yeah.
Gotta cry, cry it out. It only makes you feel better. You cry it out, you're gonna feel down in the moment. But trust me, when you lay down, you wake up the next day, you feel good that you got it all out your system, and you can go on to progress the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. So continue showing your vulnerability and don't be ashamed to let everybody know that you need help. I had to struggle with that personally myself, and I've struggled with it throughout my life. But I've learned now as I'm getting now into my 40s, I'm 41 now. It's okay to say, I need help.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything that you said, I totally agree with. Be different. As a man, don't get caught up in the linear, you got to provide, and that's your only role and responsibility in this life. Um, Explore other ways to be a man in this life, as John said. If that's the emotional expression and all of that, great. Um, Look for new hobbies. We're coming up on a new year.
Yeah.
You can look for new hobbies where there's, men there where you can build that community. Don't be afraid. I personally I have a bowling league. People make fun of me. I bowl. I love to bowl. It's not an old man sport, but I met a lot of great men, in that circle. And the company you keep always will have an impact on how your mental health moves. So if you have male figures who are, I grew up in a hood environment, people just trying to survive by any means necessary. Not always the best way, but you can pick and choose the company you keep, and just know that company that you keep will help you grow or not. Maybe even
Hmm.
worse. So you can definitely make a difference in your own life. You just really have to be willing to. You gotta look deep. You gotta look deep within you and get to know who you are and where you want to go, and do some self reflection. I'm biased to self awareness, so get some more self awareness for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. I'm also going to mention, Atira also said, pray more and find more men who are building their faith. I absolutely love that. I agree.
Yeah.
100%. Guys, once again, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, John, for being on Morning Mimosas today. Guys, we're going to get out of here, but I'm really hoping that whoever has watched this episode today, please take the information and become that safe space. It's time for that. It's time to start treating men like they're human, because that's exactly what they are. But guys, this is Morning Mimosas. As you guys know, we value human life, justice, healing, and education for the Black and minority communities. See you guys next year. Happy New Year.